Game time.
Hey friends, sorry you couldn't make it to the training, but no worries. I ended up filming and recording a training video just for you. So watch it or listen to it and enjoy, follow along, take notes, write down questions that you want to email me. The downside to missing training for whatever reason is to not be able to interact and ask questions and have those discussions in person. So I want to see if we can still do that by having you guys email me your questions and thoughts and concerns. And so I'll get back to you and stuff with those so we can still kind of create a similar environment. But thanks again for tuning in, and yeah, here we go. For training for Harvest Kids, every 6 months, we will meet together in a large group and really just go over big picture things and any specific items that I feel like we need to train on at the time that we're doing the training. And so this training is my first, since I got stewardship of this ministry. But what we're going to talk about really this week is why we do Harvest Kids. And then I'm going to talk about 4 or so hot ticket items, really things that people have had lots of questions about, things that just need clarity. And so that's what this training is going to do. It's going to focus on why we do it, Harvest Kids as a ministry, and then talk about those specific items. The only thing I want to mention now is that since this training is done by video, what will be lacking is the conversation and just the ability for you to ask questions and get an immediate response. And so I ask if you do have questions, thoughts, concerns that come up during this training, that you would email me. It's probably a good idea if you're watching this on your computer. Just pull up your email and jot questions down if you have any for me and shoot them to me through email. That conversation was really, I'd say, probably the most valuable part of actually coming to training and being there in person. So it's always an encouragement for you, always to be there if you can. I just want to apologize really at this time for having it during a holiday weekend. That wasn't the hope, but that's just kind of what happened with our scheduling and such. And so, so I hope you enjoyed the training. Here we go. The first thing I wanted to discuss is, why do we do Harvest Kids? What is Harvest Kids and why do we do it? Well, Harvest Kids seeks to glorify God and fulfill the Great Commission by partnering with parents who are commanded to spiritually train their children. We don't replace parents, we partner with them. So Harvest Kids exists really for these 3 purposes. The first is to glorify God. That is our ultimate purpose in Harvest Kids, is that we would honor God as servants and volunteers, but also that the kids would honor and worship and glorify God. Which leads us to number 2. We constantly, every week, preach the gospel so that disciples are made. Kids become followers of Christ. And the third thing is that we partner with parents. We strive to stir up the kids, to get them excited so that they could go home with their parents and talk about what they've learned. We also use the family worship guide to help partner with parents in a very intentional, practical way. So the first thing is, why do we do Harvest Kids? That is why: to glorify God, to make disciples, and to partner with parents. And so the first hot ticket item I want to discuss is what to do if you're sick. So that you'll see 3 steps up there. Really, these aren't in any sort of sequential order. Number 3 is probably the first thing I'd have you do. And really what I mean by work with Brandon to find a replacement is that if you know you're sick, say Friday night, by the way, it's a lot better to try to make these changes on a Friday than it is to do it on a Sunday morning. And I know that sometimes we really just don't have any foresight. We wake up Sunday morning, we've got a fever, and so we need to find a replacement. Well, what you can do is get to know who is serving in your specific area, whether that's toddlers, or elementary school. Get to know those people and reach out to someone to see if they can fill in your spot for this week. And then when you contact me, you can let me know, hey, I'm sick today, but Rachel is able to fill in for me. So there's no issues. I just wanted to let you know Rachel's going to be there this Sunday morning. And so when you let me know that, that's really the best and easiest way. If you try that and you can't get in contact with somebody, or for some reason you can't find the contact info, contact me or contact your team lead. As a reminder, Jan Bischoff is the team lead for preschool and toddlers. Although if you're in toddlers, you can also contact Lauren, my wife. But the team lead for nursery is Sarah Burge. And then with everything concerning elementary, just go ahead and contact me. So if you're sick, please try to find a replacement first. And then when you get that replacement, you can always say, hey, since you're replacing me, since you're filling in for me this Sunday, I'll fill in for you when you're scheduled, and work that out, okay? So we want to be as courteous as we can, but that's how you do it if you're sick. The next thing I really want to talk about is our bathroom policy. I think this is pretty well known by most people, but I wanted to just go over it and just clear up any questions that you might have. The first thing I want to talk about is a good kind of rule of thumb when thinking about or planning going to the bathroom is this idea of you plus two. So we never want to go take kids to the bathroom on a one-on-one. Whether you're a male or a female, take two. If just one kid has to go to the bathroom, say, hey, who else needs to go? And try to get a group of kids to go. It's never safe to be one-on-one, just to protect us and to protect the kids. So you plus two is a great rule of thumb. Number two there, don't go in the bathroom. Now, if you're serving the younger kids, the preschool and toddlers, sometimes they're not able to button their pants or get up onto the toilet or whatever. You can help them with those things. What we like to do is to stay outside the bathroom while they're doing their business. Keep the door maybe cracked. That way they can have privacy, but you're still able sort of to help if you need to. And then number three, this isn't to try to get men out of doing the stinky, poopy stuff like changing diapers and stuff. This is for protection. We don't want men at all to change any diapers or take girls to the bathroom alone. If men are taking anyone to the bathroom, it's just going to be boys. And of course, more than two or more boys to the bathroom. And so that's our kind of policy on men and bathrooms. The next thing I want to discuss is what we do in an emergency. And really this one step with three parts is how we deal with emergencies. Now, the first thing, obviously, like any emergency, whether you're at home or you're here at the church, is to obviously assess the situation, right? First, what's the emergency? Who should I contact in this situation? Right? If you're low on glue sticks, you're not going to contact security. You're going to contact the coordinator. Okay, so all these are emergencies to different degrees, and so the coordinator is someone who is checking up on you every probably 5 or 10 minutes, moving junior helpers to different classrooms if need be, things like this, getting you more supplies or whatever, helping you contact parents, etc. So the coordinator may be your salvation in an emergency situation. The last two, B and C, we have the ability to contact security if need be. And so what we're going to do is we're going to roll out in every classroom a whiteboard with the contact number of the person on security so that we can contact them if need be. So if it's an absolute emergency situation, you need to contact security, you'll be able to do so. Most of us have cell phones, and so that would be a good way to do it. And then last, if you need to contact the parents or if you need to contact me, you all have my cell phone number. Feel free to contact me if need be. If the emergency presents itself and you need to contact me, go ahead. And the last thing is the parents. And if you need to contact the parents, obviously you get in touch with the coordinator, and the coordinator will then get in touch with the parents. And so an emergency situation, really that's our protocol. The next thing I want to talk about in the training is the discipline policy. This is a policy that we have had in the past, but I just wanted to reiterate it and really just talk about the specifics of our discipline policy now. When we do discipline, we're doing discipline really if you look just under the title, it shows these two things are what we're going to be disciplining: willful disobedience and aggressive behavior. What I mean by willful disobedience, it kind of does depend on the age as far as the severity of the discipline involved when it comes to willful disobedience. What I mean by that is most toddlers are pretty squirrely, and it's going to seem like they're disobedient willfully. But when we talk about like elementary school kids, they refuse to do what you're asking them to do. That would be an opportunity for discipline. And then the other is aggressive behavior. This is if a kid's being violent, hurting others, pushing others, throwing chairs, turning over tables, like things like that, aggressive behavior, throwing cars, throwing toys. Those are opportunities for discipline as well. And so we have 3 steps. The first is to remind, hey, we're not supposed to be doing this. Please don't do this. The second is to regroup. What we mean by that is you might even pull the kid from the situation, and that could be having them sit in the corner maybe for this activity. They're not able to participate in this activity because of their behavior. And then say, hey, if you sit quietly during this activity, you'll be able to come into the next one. And so regrouping is just getting them out of the situation so that they can refocus and hopefully come back in and have good behavior. And the last thing is if these two don't persist, aren't successful, then you'll end up having to remove the child. Now, this is probably going to be pretty rare. We want to show grace and patience in this discipline system. But if the child becomes unable to handle them, then it could happen that they need to be removed from the classroom. And what that means is we can even contact their parents to have them come get the child. Now, this would be, like I said, really, really rare, but that's kind of how we do it. Remind them, regroup, and remove them potentially from the environment. That's the discipline policy. 2 final things I just want to mention quickly as I conclude this training is the first is this. We've just rolled out recently a new sign-in sheet, and some of you have had an opportunity to use it. But the sign-in sheet is a little bit different. You'll be presented with, I believe it's 8 blocks per page, and when a kid signs in the class, you'll write their name in the block, and then they'll be able to come into the classroom. That's for the sign-in. But to sign a kid out, what you'll do is you'll grab the name tag that is placed on the kid, on the child, and you'll remove the name tag from the child and then place it in the block where you wrote their name when you signed them in. This way, if there are any children running around in the church, they ought not to have a name tag on them. If they have a name tag on them, it's presumed that they're still in the custody and care of Harvest Kids. And so that's how we're going to differentiate. Sometimes kids try to escape and leave the classroom. And if they do and they have a name tag on, we'll know that child belongs in the class with us. if children are running around in the lobby, they don't have name tags on, then it's the responsibility of the parents then to sort of deal with their behavior and such, and safety. So that's really the heart behind the sign-in sheet and kind of why it's changed. It's just to keep obviously better track of the kids so that we can be a safer and more intentional environment. The last thing I want to talk about is family worship and the family worship guide. Really, the important thing about this is that just make sure every week that you're handing this guide out to parents so that they can use it if they desire to. And so every week the guide is going to have information that pertains to whatever we're teaching that week, and it leads them through reading, prayer, and through singing. And so really that concludes our training. Just talked about why we do Harvest Kids, talked about what to do if you're sick, talked about our bathroom policy, what to do in emergency situations, discipline, how to use the sign-in sheet, and then also how we do and what the family worship guide is. And so thanks for listening to the training.